This is sick.
Damn it, Hunter. What are you getting us into?
If you don't confront your fears, you are always going to be afraid.
Trust me. How do we get down?
Every hour that passes, the weaker we get.
Our water is in that bag.
Hunter!
If you're scared of dying, don't be afraid to live.
Welcome back. We begin on the edge of a towering cliff, following a trio of young climbers in their 20s. The tension escalates as one of them, a man, falls to his death. Fast forward 51 weeks, we catch up with Becky, who's totally the dead bloke's widow and is struggling to cope with her grief, even though her dad says it's almost been a year now and urges her to move on. Hunter, the widow's closest friend, then pays her a visit and persuades the reticent mourner to resume climbing. There's no better way to progressively reintegrate a traumatized friend into the sport than working together to build a 2,000-foot structure. Hunter turns out to be one of those annoying TikTok vloggers who enjoys recording herself acting strangely in order to get likes and views. In any case, they subsequently travel for 6 hours in the midst of the desert in an attempt to reach the abandoned B-67 TV tower, but they are unsuccessful in their search, for better or worse. Thus, they inquire about the location of the fourth highest structure in the United States from a random restaurant server. She makes them look like right Muppets by pointing out the window to reveal the giant tower they've been looking for all night. It's right in front of their freaking faces. Before they head over, Becky has to charge her phone. So, naturally, Hunter does some MacGyver-level life hack she apparently learned on YouTube and sticks the prongs of her phone charger directly into the bulb of a lamp. The next morning, after a night filled with strange nightmares of her late husband, they set off. They continue driving in the direction of the tower. A bothersome fence immediately stops them in their tracks, forcing them to walk the remainder of the trip. Though it should be noted that vultures normally do not attack living things, they eerily circle overhead as they approach the tower, eating on a half-dead carcass. As the imposing building rises above them, Hunter starts to take pictures on Instagram, as is his custom. Becky goes into meltdown when her ignorant and conceited friend tells her about the tower's crazy specs and height. Since her previous climbing experience, she has lost her spouse and saw all of her aspirations and expectations for a better life fall apart. So, she promptly tells Hunter that she's totally having second thoughts and doesn't think she's going to climb that dodgy monstrosity today, especially on her first climb back since the accident last year. She tells Hunter she's having second thoughts, but her friend dismisses her fears, insisting they press on after coming so far. Under the pressure of Hunter's relentless encouragement, Becky relents. Together, they ascend the aging, rusty structure, ignoring every creak and wobble. Even when one of the bars snaps off the ladder, Becky doesn't seem to put her foot down. A few of bothersome satellite dishes appear to be in the way of them after they paused midway to take a quick sip of water and then comically ignored more screws that kept breaking free and falling right past them. Instead of thinking to themselves, "Oh well, maybe we should just leave it here and call it a day," they push by them and up the last old ladder to the summit. They video themselves irrationally dangling from the dilapidated old structure with a drone and take a ton of selfies. The ashes of her deceased lover are then dispersed at random by Becky when they have finished playing about up there. After she comforts Hunter, who's surprisingly emotional about her friend's husband's passing, they both finally decide to get the heck out of there. But their relief is short-lived. On their descent, the rusted ladder gives way under Becky's weight. Thankfully, Hunter pulls her back up to the top platform of that phobic tower. Their cries of relief soon turn to panic and disbelief when they realize they're now stuck 2,000 feet in the air, without a phone signal to even update their Facebook status. They see an emergency box with an antique flare pistol and a small set of binoculars after surveying their surroundings. Whoever packed it, though, completely neglected to include any food or drink. such as a nice donut or a flask of water. They have simply departed, leaving their bag of goods near the satellite dishes, and spoke of donuts. Becky's leg is injured, but they now lack first aid equipment, beverages, and solids to treat it. When they take a picture of the vulture oddly devouring a live animal and receive a lot of likes on Instagram, they eventually discover that they had a phone signal back on the ground. So, if they can just get their phone down to a lower altitude, then this influencer with over 60,000 followers could send out a message to let her fans know their dumb asses are totally stuck on a small platform 2,000 feet above a random desert. Naturally, they start to undress and put the phone into Hunter's shoe, padded with a sock and a push-up bra. Becky then glimpses a tattoo on her mate's ankle that says 143, which is strange because that was the same phrase her dead husband used to tell her he loved her. But before she can say, yeah, something ain't quite right here, Hunter spots a dog walker down below and tries to get his attention by undressing some more and attempting to knock him out with some more shoes. Although he does notice one of the said shoes, he hilariously looks everywhere but up. So he totally doesn't see the poor half-naked chicks doing saucy stripteases miles above. Once night falls, they try to use the flare gun to get his attention after he camps out in an RV for the evening. He and his companion eventually spot them, but they don't understand the girls are stranded, so they rob them instead. These females really don't seem to be able to get a break. After a little while, when things have calmed down, Becky approaches Hunter about the tattoo. Tension increases in an already bad condition when Hunter confesses to having an affair with Becky's husband. Hunter offers to attempt getting their bag of supplies from the satellite dishes just below after feeling so overcome with remorse and not wanting to be confined in such an uncomfortable situation. She completely does, but all of a sudden, she falls off the rope and appears to be dead. But luckily, she miraculously lands slap bang on the supply bag. After the tiny, scrawny woman somehow hauls her back up, they write an SOS note and stick it to the newly retrieved drone. But like most of these bloody things, the machine runs out of battery barely 30 seconds after it's launched, so they have no choice but to bring it back already. Later that night, Becky dreams about being eaten by. It turns out that was just a bad hallucination because her leg wound is totally getting worse. They get the brilliant notion to use Hunter's previous insane life hack first thing the next morning. In an attempt to keep it from being struck by jets, they attempt to charge their drone using the beacon atop the tower. Becky therefore begins charging the drone after utilizing a wedding ring to transport the current and some other fictitious science. However, she must remain up there for several hours, holding on to the pole for dear life, while ravenous vultures circle menacingly and begin to attack her as they detect the smell of blood. They eventually fly the drone back to the motel after she takes a little break and whines about how much she misses her dad and feels bad about how disrespectful she was to him the last time they spoke, only for it to be struck by a passing truck. Before she can say, well, that was a total waste of time, a raging storm approaches. As a last resort, Becky wants to try the phone in the shoe trick again, but Hunter says she can't give her a shoe because the shoe is on her foot, and her foot is totally down by the satellite dishes with the rest of her body. In a shocking twist that no one could ever see coming, it turns out Becky has been hallucinating her husband-whoring friend for hours. Hunter perished when she fell off the rope. She did not survive the fall. Alone with her struggles and her thoughts of her pal, Becky has been thinking about them. Becky is ready to record one last video message, with her strength restored. The following morning, Becky wakes up to a substantial raw breakfast with extra feathers and gets just enough stamina to go down to the dishes after having a small weep and filming a final goodbye video to present to her dad. She then shows her disdain for her unfaithful friend's corpse by placing her phone into the final shoe that is left and shoving it into her partner's rib cage before dropping her body from the tower. Just as the satellite dishes seem to be giving way, we cut to her dad racing down the highway and soon reuniting with his daughter, who seems to have somehow been rescued completely off-screen. We end with a cheesy voiceover about how we all have to live our lives without fear. Tell me if you like this. Click in the comments if you have time, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.